Representative Ward,
Speaker, I rise in support with reservations.
please proceed with reservations.
Speaker, I agree with many of the things that have just said. One might say it's gilding the lily a bit, but there are a couple of flaws in this budget, Mr. Speaker. I wish to point out a couple of those, other than generally when you have a good budget, whether you're a family or a state or a nation, you don't spend more money than you have. This budget is $400 million over the top. That's a structural flaw, and assuming that we do have some difficult times coming, we have to be very observant not to overspend. The other flaw, Mr. Speaker, is, well, let's say a constituency that may be missing, Mr. Speaker, is spoken to by this headline. It says 48% of the people of Hawaii are walking a financial tightrope. 48% of our people are one check away from homelessness. I don't see in this budget that we have considered fully the economic direction that we've had in the past. We have median income of $42,000. We have people working 2 and 3 jobs. We have an economy that is based upon the visitor industry. We do not have high-paying jobs, and the visitor industry is a very volatile one. So, Mr. Speaker, I would have preferred that we saw a bit more vital economic development thrust. And there's a couple of things in manufacturing and innovating, but it's not robust, and that's the fear that I have, Mr. Speaker, that so many of our people, 48%, are one check away from homelessness. That is shocking. Are we really doing our job if half of our population, half of our constituencies are one check away from homelessness? It's a shame. I don't think it's conscionable as representatives that we should be able to do that. Okay, that's one constituency that may be missing. Another way this bill could have been better cast is if we would not have niggardly funded DHHL. And all of you know that this is the first time I've not been on the conference committee because I voted against the budget because I felt very strongly that the 7, 8, 10 million, now we're up in the 20s if you count a lot of the positions that have been given. But Mr. Speaker, we have shortchanged what otherwise is a legal and constitutional obligation. So rather than just praise, I think we should be critical, Mr. Speaker. Let us be mindful that Hawaii is a renting state. More people rent than own, Mr. Speaker. That means the Hawaiian community is even more prone to homelessness because of the amount of people who are renting. We don't have the home ownership of the mainland, which is 60, almost 70%. People can say there's a piece of land or a house that they can call their own. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, in the beginning in 1920, when our Congressman, Kalanianaʻole Highway, a Republican, said, we want to have an organic act, and it was passed unanimously. You know, I love Senator Akaka. He's probably one of the most genuine, respected people in this nation. But Mr. Speaker, he couldn't get the Kaka bill through, but Kalanianaʻole got through the Organic Act in 1920. But to this day, Mr. Speaker, we've only put less than 10,000 people on the land, of which 203,000 acres have been designated. Mr. Speaker, that is almost as shameful as having half of our people who are one check away from homelessness. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to correct the learned chair of finance. She said that Castanetti rejected the constitutional obligation of her decision in her ruling. Mr. Speaker, that is something I think that the Speaker bought and others have bought, to think that, you know, we are not obliged to abide by that decision. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing farther from the truth than that, because it's very clearly spelled out in findings of fact number 4 that we are obliged to pay $28 million, $478,966. What the learned chair forgot to mention in the Castanetti ruling is that she changed 3 sentences out of 40 pages as a way of respecting this body as a separate and equal member of the legislature, or
I apologize. Representative Tupola, would you yield your time for Representative?
I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
I don't think I'll go 25 minutes, though, as we had the previous speaker. Mr. Speaker, the point is Judge Castanetti changed 3 sentences in her 40-page decision. So by mere wordsmithing, this body, our leadership, has taken that to mean that, oh, we are not obliged to do what the Constitution says, which in 1978 they made may sufficiently fund to shall sufficiently fund, Mr. Speaker. That's very real. Shall means a lot to this body. We are all wordsmithing. But when you change 3 sentences out of 40 pages and you say, oh, we've turned it on its head, Mr. Speaker, that is incorrect. It is simply incorrect. And Mr. Speaker, I know I'm not saying anything new to the Speaker who is from Maui, who is not on the podium, but 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago I wrote him a letter. And I said, the first purpose of this letter is to note that the time is of essence and we are fast approaching the 2016 May 5 deadline. This was written on the 20th of April. I said the second purpose of the letter is to caution you that this legislature, if it does not comply to the court order, we, you, me, the governor, the legislature will be in contempt of court. Then, Mr. Speaker, I said, I encourage you, no, I beseech you to stop this fighting against the Native Hawaiians and provide them with the housing and the lands that were mandated by the U.S. Constitution 96 years ago, the U.S. Congress 96 years ago, by the state of Hawaii in 1959, and legally brought to the fore under the Nelson case that we have underfunded the DHHL. How else can you explain after 9 decades, only slightly over 9,000 licenses have been issued, and 27,000 Native Hawaiians remain on the waiting list, Mr. Speaker? We got maybe 6,000 to 10,000 homeless people. We got 27,000 people on the wait list. About 60,000 Hawaiians have half, in terms of the blood quantum, to qualify. Are we doing a demographic run out the clock, Mr. Speaker? Because there's intermarriage, and everybody gets intermarried in Hawaii. But as Hawaiians dilute their population, are we trying to propagate this by not having people eligible? I think that's a very callous way of looking at it. But the longer we delay, the less people are going to be eligible for Hawaiian homes, and the more who are on the waiting list are going to pass away. Mr. Speaker, that's a shame. That was letter number 1 to Speaker Souki. Letter number 2 was written just last week, and I put a headline on this one. I said, countdown to contempt of court, 4 days remaining. I reminded him of the letter that I wrote on April 20th, and then I said, it is therefore timely again for a sign of goodwill through either the Budget Conference Committee topping off the executive budget with a constitutionally mandated $28 million for DHHL, or the appropriation bill by Representative DeCoit, which I believe was HB 1932 or thereabouts. I end by saying, please know there is a legal team waiting on the sidelines until May 6th and will surely be proceeding with as much legal energy and astuteness that led to the Nelson case and the Castanetti decision that is now being ignored by you. Please save taxpayers' money by avoiding further litigation. Mr. Speaker, the bottom line is we are on a collision course by passing this bill without $28 million in it. It is very clear that the Castanetti decision is being misinterpreted by this body. It's very clear that we are giving rhetorical excuses for not having our congressional as well as constitutional and statehood obligations to fund the Hawaiian homelands. My requests may have been ignored, Mr. Speaker, but let me say this very unequivocally. The Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation is very serious in pursuing this. I don't represent them. I don't have a conflict of interest in them. But I see a new generation of Hawaiians, bright, young, legally grounded, who are going to pursue this. And they're going to bite our heels until, like OHA did with us, until we pay up. So, Mr. Speaker, the point is, the sooner we can do this, the sooner we can do a $27 billion budget like we're passing today and leave out $8 million or $28 million for the Hawaiians and then beat our chest and say we did a great job. When these people have waited for 96 years and there's 27,000 of them waiting, I think we need to look at those people and apologize to them.
McDermott, I'm sorry. Would you yield your time? You won't. Okay.
Mr.
Representative
Speaker.
Puha, would you yield your time?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I
Thank-
yield my time.
Thank you very much, Representative Puha. Please proceed,
They say you give a
Representative.
politicians a microphone, they'll never sit down, but I would actually have just finished my speech. I thank you, Representative Puha. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, time is of essence, and we are having a legal battle ahead of us. I don't think it's going to cause us to come back in a special session. This is an election year. But I think we have to take very seriously what the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation, what the recipients or the beneficiaries who are now getting organized are doing. And Mr. Speaker, we haven't heard the last of this, but the way that we've gilded the lily by saying we did the first thing and gave them the most money ever, Mr. Speaker, that is not fair, it's not just. I think we really have to contemplate the future of the Native Hawaiians in the state of Hawaii, and we should start right here, right now, and legally with the Nelson case. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Speaker. I will not rise on a point of personal privilege, but I will take the good gentleman's ridicule as flattery in that how much influence I had over the Lingle administration, and particularly Governor Linda Lingle. Secondly, I want this body to know I have never voted against a DHHL budget. Never. Thirdly, I think I personify what's going on in the Hawaiian community. It's not an awakening, it's not a Johnny-come-lately, it's a wake-up, it's about time that we do something about this, and we're going to do it legally. Enough is enough, and that's what I sense is going on in the Hawaiian community. And if I can personify that here on this floor, sitting from Hawaii Kai, without a dog in the race, but only for what is just. And I ask this for all of you. Every time you walk by Liliuokalani's statue, Mr. Speaker,
Focus on the
I am
speaker.
doing a gesture because the statue is over there. You're not Liliuokalani, the statue is over there. Every time you walk by Liliuokalani's statue,
Mr. Speaker,
ask yourself, oh, come
point
on,
of
Joe.
order. This man is
Come
out of order.
on.
Will you please call him out of order?
Representative Ward.
I told you guys, look,
Focus on the merits
I'm
of the
the
bill.
quarterback. The more you push on me, the more I'm going to push back. So leave me alone.
Recess.
You call the sergeant at arms? Take care of him.
I had one sentence to finish to say, look at Liliuokalani and ask yourself if she's not right and needs our help. I'm off the floor, Joe? I get kicked off the floor, I got to sit down. This will make history twice.
Will the House come to order? Chair recognizes Representative Ward. Mike.
Joe, did you cut my microphone off?
Representative, that was uncalled for. Representative,
Yes,
focus on...
Mr. Speaker, in
focus on-
conclusion and for the record, I wish to take a word that I used earlier to connote cheapskate, that there was a bit of a cheapskate position that this budget takes for DHHL. I think you can strike that word and put in the proper word as cheapskate. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, my last sentence was, in reference to a historical statue that is outside of this building, I ask that the members have a look at that and remember Hawaiian history, remember where we are today, and remember that that which she cried for when she was under house arrest was the freedom of her people. And Mr. Speaker, to know now that behind her and in the shadows like a kabuki play is the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. So when you go by, listen to your mind and your conscience. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion?